Christopher Schenk, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm excited to have you on. Like I was telling you before, this is a lot of interesting things are going to unfold as we talk about this. So, for the people unfamiliar with who you are and what you do, how about you go through your story and give people a better idea?
Yeah, so a bit of my background that kind of leads to how I got here at Opus. My background is really comes from my upbringing, which I was raised in a very Christian family. My grandfather was a pastor. My dad was a youth pastor and worship team leader. My mom and grandma were both in the worship team. I even played drums in the worship team. And so even like 5 days a week, I mean, pretty much my entire life and my entire family was really revolved around the church. And that was really where I got my belief system. That was how we handled everything. And all of my friends and everything that I knew around my world was around Christianity and the church. And that really disrupted for me when at the age of 14, my parents got a divorce. And that was the first time I really remember really thinking like, wait, this whole thing for the last 14 years that I've been told is truth, or this is how we live our life, and this is right, and this is wrong. It was the first time, whoa, everything that I've been taught is this my new reality. And that looking back at that moment and kind of how that's played out into my life was also the beginning of feeling emotions and having feelings that I was unfamiliar with. And then all the things that I was taught as a means to how I was feeling or my belief system, were suddenly not the things that wasn't working. And I think that was probably some of the first time I started feeling some really negative emotions that I had was trying to figure out how to process. And over the period of a few years, I reconnected with my dad in a really meaningful way that he really shared and expressed his experience around the divorce as being something that was very challenging, but he ultimately, in order to be able to be the best father to, I'm the oldest of four boys, so all of
Hmm.
us boys, that he really needed to choose love and choose his own happiness. And that I got goosebumps even just saying that now, because that was something that, was very meaningful and gave me that opportunity to, what is it that makes me happy? What is it that allows me to step into? And I was kind of going through, stepping into adulthood. And at that time, it was work, and also because I was starting to have a lot of resistance to this Christianity belief system that I had. And it gave me that opportunity to start finding things that made me happy and spark joy in that way. And I followed a career path. I had the opportunity. Fast forward in a few years, I had an opportunity to take a wellness position at a company, which moved me from California here to Austin, Texas, which I've been ever since. Love it here in Austin. And that was really where I started to learn different tools about wellness, starting to learn, through different means of the source of information that I had and surrounded by people who I could see living great life. And we're all human. We have all of our ups and downs, but started to learn the different ways that we find meaning, the ways that we find purpose. And through a lot of those practices, and starting to learn some of these tools really kind of set me on that path to what I started to learn and has now kind of implemented into where we are at with Opus, which is living your best life by finding your own happiness and connecting with feelings of joy. And when you feel your best, you perform your best, you create better, you connect deeper. And really, it's also not just something that you just now have a status of the rest of your life. Then there's the life events that happen, and you find that things can pull you down. And so really it started to, go down this rabbit hole, throughout my 20s, of working harder, because that was a means of finding that best self and happiness. But then what came with that was the stress. Started
Hmm.
to find that in the stress, I was starting to, use distraction and find different social environments and drinking and all these other things that didn't actually work. And it was in 2010, I had the opportunity to start On It Labs here in Austin with Aubrey Marcus. And that was where it started to shift some things, such as unconventional fitness. and more mindset stuff, and a lot of more of that kind of personal development meets fitness, and really had the opportunity, like with Wim Hof and doing some training there and doing some breath work, and started to take at a high level, what are all the different tools? It's not just one, but there's a lot of different tools that you can use to help you, get out of that stress response, which has been kind of the core thing that I think that I have discovered as the most profound understanding of how our body works, that has brought me to the ability to try the different tools and modalities that can help you with that. And it was in 2015 that I had also the opportunity to go down to the jungle and was like introduced. I had done psychedelics in the past, and looking back now, I don't think I really even did enough of, enough big of a dose. But I had, going down to the jungle, I was able to have this like profoundly deep healing experience. But what was more interesting to me that I learned and experienced from that was the discovery of these things that these civilizations and these indigenous tribes have been doing for so long. And again, this was like, here I am, at the age of 30, I think it was at that point. I had no idea a lot of this stuff existed most of my life. And it was like, oh, what's going on out in the world that we don't know about? And that really had stuck with me as the curiosity of what's out there. And that was really one of those things has been sound and sound, but also in heart coherence and the way that those two things have come together. And I'll share a little bit more, which is that I was able to go in 2017 to Burning Man. And I think that was that kind of final piece that kind of connected some of these dots, because one, Burning Man is not necessarily, I think, some of the things that I had heard about being a big party scene, and sure, it is those things, you can do those things. But for me, it was the freedom and the self-expression, not having my phone, like there's no service out there. And people have like all of these art installations. And one of the art installations that I had an experience with, which is with my now co-founder, Adam Schlunder, there's this art installation called Illumina. And it was like with a collaboration with HeartMath, which they're an organization that does a lot of research and development with a device that measures your heart rate around HRV. And they have a lot of research around heart coherence. And so this art installation was this giant tree that was like it had like lights and LEDs all open through it. And so kind of caught our attention. We walked over, and you have all these chairs like wrapped around it. And you lay down, you sit in the chair, and you put this little heart rate monitor on your ear. And it's basically taking the pulse of all the people around. And what's really interesting is that it's guiding you through this meditation, and the lights are kind of pulsing. It allows your heart to slow down. You kind of get into that parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest state, and out of that stress response, which is the sympathetic state, and kind of the fight or flight. And that was the first time I had done what we call group coherence. Mm-hmm. And it was this moment where basically, as it's measuring and as everyone's kind of like meditating and doing this thing, the tree would just light up. And like, I guess it kind of is just measuring in that moment of coherence. And so that, coming back from that experience in 2017 was kind of the set in motion a lot of the idea of researching, this is this thing. I researched a lot about HeartMath, and it was the power of the heart coherence, which is really the connection between your heart and your brain. So the heart sends 4 times as many messages to your brain, and your brain, when it's in a stressful spot, it's sending you're putting you into that sympathetic state, and your body is stressing, but it's also allowing you to perform. It's allowing you to do things that would be like in that fight or flight state. And going back to a lot of my wellness experience, one thing I really learned, the last like 5 to 10 years was the importance of recovery. I think I'd always just learned that fitness so much was about working out harder and about looking better and performing well. But man, I can perform a lot better when I recover really hard. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of those different ways to do so has been, like I mentioned, like breath work. But, I've done things like float tanks, sauna is a big thing, like to do quite often. and cold plunge, and even just as much as I've learned, like with On It and with a lot of the unconventional fitness stuff, is just there's so much in movement and mobility, and that all of those things for me and the recovery side of things is I started realizing that the more that I focus on my recovery, the more I focus on relaxing and do a lot of these types of breath work and mindfulness and meditation, all of those things would really kind of allow me to be in a state where I was actually feeling my best.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that allowed me to then create my best work, and which is something that has been really exciting to feel into what's possible with what we're creating at Opus, because Opus, the term opus for us comes from the Latin phrase great work, and it's also referenced when describing the most important work of an artist. And we feel that we are our most important work, and it is living our best life.
Man, that is such a beautiful thing to hear, and how kind of you had a lot of these puzzle pieces going through your life, and then it finally all kind of collapsed and connected in this one moment. I like a lot of the stuff you said because it resonates a lot with what we talk about on the podcast. This is a fitness podcast, and I always like to say that the magic happens when you recover, and that you train not so that you can. Training isn't the magic. You train to earn the right to recover. You can't actually get the benefits of training until you do recover properly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something else we talk about in the podcast a lot and with my clients as well is that we are increasingly in a world where stress is all around us. Your body responds to emotional stress, mental stress, work stress, physical stress in all kind of the same way. And that really breaks your body down in a lot of ways. Can you talk about more for the listeners from your perspective, what happens in these stress responses and how you can kind of recognize that you are in a stress response without even sometimes being aware that you are in it? Because a lot of people are in chronic stress and they can't even differentiate what relaxing and resting and digesting even feels like.
Yeah, I would say, for me, the measurement of when I know that I am in stress, which, as you mentioned, like in the world that we have been living in, especially over the last 18 months, has really given us a lot of distraction.
Mhm.
And really the stress response it puts you into a place where that's where you start slipping into feeling overwhelmed and starting to feel like you don't have any energy, and you're starting to feel sometimes it's also wanting to eat more. And honestly, for me, the biggest sign for my stress is how much I'm pulling to distraction.
Mhm.
And when I'm noticing that I'm checking my phone a lot, or I'm noticing that I'm not present, and that for me, as I was mentioning earlier, a biggest part of my life, I would say stress has become the biggest villain of my life. And that it's I love being a part of something that's really important, and I actually love working. But I find that if I don't specifically block out times, I very quickly burn out. And what's interesting about burnout is that burnout can be such a huge combination of so many things. I mean, anxiety, depression, not wanting to be in social environments, finding that you are hungry more, you crave things that are stimulating to feel good. And that's really, to me, the stack of those things, and the active process of relaxation and getting your body out of that stress response is, like you said, actually the most important thing, so that we can do our best work.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I love that. I think I recognize that in myself as well, that I turn to distraction when I am overwhelmed or uncomfortable or stressed out. And that when it takes a second to actually recognize that I'm doing that, obviously, because
Mm.
you're trying to avoid it altogether. But once you do recognize that, I think you have that first step to put yourself in that um, parasympathetic state, that more relaxed state. Now, obviously, stress has its benefits, but how often, or I guess what the proper phrasing could be, like, what kind of ratio of stress to unstressed do you think we should be aiming for on a daily basis or on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I would say for me, it kind of goes back to a little bit of what I was talking about with coherence.
Mm.
And so the way that we look at that is in the emotional fitness, the idea that, with our heart, that actually has stores its own memories. By actually having an active relaxation process, which can be in combination with things like meditation and just being present. And by actively doing this on a regular basis, it gives you the capacity to have more energy, to perform in the times that you do need. And so being able to use the sympathetic nervous system when you need it, and it being not a straight, if you're not in full recovery, it's like with HRV specifically, which is the measurement of the variability between your heart rates.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a very healthy state, that capacity is higher. So your HRV, the distance between your heart rates over time is greater. And that's like this bigger capacity. And then you have better energy, sustained energy. You also sleep better. You're also able to get deeper sleep. And so your body's able to recover more. And so that was really in that coherent state, is that for me, every single day I take time, and that time is something that I also find the excuse, which I go back to something we call discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's three things that we call in challenges of feeling your best. It's the stress, as we're talking about now. And it's also distraction, which we've also talked about. And the third one is discipline. And I think that the discipline has been one of the things that I have really been learning more about, which is what I'm so excited about offering with Opus, is this idea of self-care. And it can be so easy, especially when you're in moments where you have trouble shutting off, you have a lot going on, there's maybe something, events in your life, and like with all things COVID or other things that we've been experiencing, it can be challenging, even in social media and distractions, emails, all this stuff, that's notifications that we are in today, which is like a normal part of life. And that discipline is the most important. And for me, being able to, like, before Soundbed and started really diving more into sound therapy, which we can dive into a little bit more in a moment,
Mm-hmm.
is that I was doing things like float tanks, and I was trying to go and have like sessions and do body work and do other things. And those were the most profound things that we had. And when the lockdowns and everything started happening, I suddenly didn't have access to any of that stuff, which was pretty wild. And so to me, it's like the active, dedication, like you mentioned, of active recovery plan. Like, what is and like, that's sometimes dedicating an entire day still to this day, even with a lot of the tools and things, is like, the power of doing nothing is actually really incredible.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that a lot. I know it's funny you mentioned float tanks, because in my pursuit of prioritizing my recovery, prior to COVID, float tanks just started opening up in the Chicagoland area. But prior to that, I was trying to go quarterly, if not every other month, to do a float tank, because between training, between entrepreneurship, and all the things going on in my life, you need that time to just not think about anything, not worry about anything, just let your body breathe and do its thing. And another thing that I found really helpful is grounding, or earthing is something that's really common. Just walking barefoot on some grass and letting your body communicate with the earth, essentially, so that you can bring yourself back down and reduce those stress levels and bring up your HRV, like you mentioned before, which it's just gonna, when you take care of yourself and prioritize yourself in that way, it's gonna show in every other aspect of your life, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned the earthing and grounding. It's incredible. Like, even 5 minutes of just taking barefoot and going and walking out on some grass and standing outside, like, that was one thing in the lockdown. Like, 15 minutes, taking time to just do it literally every day. Like, if you have some grass nearby, just go walk on the grass, and it's incredible. Like, you're kind of to me, it's connecting back with nature, and also just kind of feeling back into those kind of present moments. It's just so powerful. I also, with float tanks, it was a really big part of my life. I even had like a membership of it, so I would have, like, I think it was like two floats a month.
Oh, sick.
And yeah, and the thing about floats is how profound it is, because you're not feeling gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, completely, it's the sensory deprivation. And so your body doesn't have to do the things that it's normally having to do. And so it's a really getting you to that place of deep relaxation. And I was doing things from like 60 to 90 minutes. I did find, though, for me, that was another one of those, like, oh, the time, like, because it's like full on by the time you do the prep and you take a shower, then you do your 60-minute, like, it was a 2-hour block. And so I love float tanks, and I think they're such an incredible tool. But it is one of those things that man, if I just had one in my house that I can do more often, it would be super awesome.
Right. And isn't that kind of what you're trying to solve now with Opus, is finding and
Absolutely.
creating that time for deep relaxation in the home space?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd love to kind of share a little bit more about
Yeah.
SoundBed and kind of how we got to create that. So as I mentioned about the experience that we had at Burning Man, we came back and started to do things that were about coherence and starting to do some of these like group community gatherings where we would try these different modalities and trying the breath work and different sound healing, which has become a really big powerful part of my life.
Hmm.
And then doing just setting intentions together, doing sharing times together and things like that. We also were starting to try wellness technology and starting to like the heart rate monitor and starting to do different things that would combine these practices together. And that was a really interesting thing that we were discovering, and we were having so much deep inner work with that experience that we were wondering, could we take something like this to the public?
Hmm.
And so it was a very, very big passion project, but we had this event that we called Light Pump. And at the beginning of 2019, during South by Southwest in March, we created a little art pop-up. We called it a transformative art pop-up.
Hmm.
And in there, we created these 10 different experiences. And each one of them was intentionally allowing you to like connect with yourself, or, there was like a VR experience, and some different like projection mapping things. And we also, throughout the day, we had a specific schedule that would allow people to be a part of like breathwork workshop, and we did sound healing, singing bowls, guided meditations, and ecstatic dance, which is really powerful as well. And and we did about a week's worth of promotion. We had 3,500 RSVPs,
Wow.
and we were like, "Whoa, this is a thing for people." We just did a few little ads that we put together, and we it was such a profound experience for people who were coming to us saying, I've never done sound healing. I've never really done much meditation. And the way that they were like totally uplifted after the experience of going to the event. And one of those experiences that we had there, one of the installations, is actually what is now a product and that we call SoundBed. And we had a lot of feedback. It was basically this platform. It was actually like a plywood platform, very earliest prototype. And what's connected to it is what's called a transducer. And transducer, it basically utilizes frequencies to create a felt vibration on there.
Hmm.
And so after that particular experience, that was the one that everyone was talking about, and that there was like, wow, I was in this meditation, and I never had a meditation where I had this feeling. And so we took that particular installation and ultimately the product, and we started to make it more comfortable, and we started to iterate on how could we create different types of experiences for that. And that's during that summer of 2019, we had started to go to different events, and went to Trans Tech Conference, and also co-sponsored the MAPS organization, which does a lot of the studies and legalization around MDMA therapy,
Hmm.
psychoassisted therapy. And so we did like a co-sponsorship in the fall of 2019, and we set up this like pop-up there, and we called it the Psychedelic Wellness Center of the Future. We had several different prototypes, and most of the attendees were therapists and psychologists and people who are practitioners in the space of all things healing. And the most common thing that we heard was, what it would be like to have something like this replace the recliners and couches that they were using in the therapy room.
Hmm.
And so we thought we were really onto something as a business model, because before it was just like we were planning to keep doing more pop-up events. And so it started to shift away from being kind of just a passion project. It became a self-development tool. We started really finding that our friends, which we've now had over 3,000 beta testers,
Wow.
to experience and give us information. And what we had started out with, like these hour-long experiences, we found that the 10-minute demo, the 7-minute demo, were some of the most, it still had the same amount of impact. And
Mm.
so then we started to intentionally create these 7-minute types of programming that were very specific to specific outcomes and desired for how you want to feel. If you want to feel more energy, or if you want to feel more relaxed or feel more joy, and that was really how we started to develop that. And then fast forward, we had started a pilot with a wellness clinic, a ketamine clinic here in Austin, Texas. And it was at the beginning of March 2020 when we had this whole plan, we were
Man.
planning to start it up, and then COVID hit. And then we were like lockdown, and they were like, we're just gonna have to put this on pause. And we were like, our entire business model is we had like a pitch deck, and we were like, we had a whole plan. And so, looking at, it's the Chinese symbol for chaos is made up of two parts, and it's danger and opportunity. And we realized it was like, hey, in this moment where we were like suddenly questioning the whole model that we had, we were looking at such an incredible opportunity, which was everyone stuck at home. Like, we are currently using this thing at home on a regular basis in 10 minutes, finding such a powerful shift in our own well-being when there was a lot of uncertainty and fear in the world. And so at that moment, we pivoted and really started to build over the last year what is now Opus, and has now this immersive sound healing platform.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing. I personally, I remember, based on what you're talking about, I remember in my like freshman year world religions philosophy class in college, we had this really interesting teacher. Her name was Miss Mimi Davis. If you hear this, hey, I hope you're listening, because I've never been able to have contact with you ever again. Because she was this amazing person that studied religion all over the world, and she did it by obviously she still had to make money somehow. So she taught world religions at different community colleges one semester at a time in every state, in every country. I got really lucky that I had her for that semester. And she told us about sound baths and the amazing impact of sound baths, and how it's been used for centuries. And obviously in most major religions, they have music or some sort of vibration calming impacts. And I've always wanted to try it. And the best thing, or the closest thing I found to it, was at my flotation tank place in the Chicago area. And it was literally just these speakers that you usually find in trunks of cars, just laid down in a bed format with like a thin piece of foam on top of it. And then they gave you headphones, and it felt kind of cool. But it sounds like your technology has come a long way since compared to that point, at least, because that was like a 6 years ago kind of thing. But what I wanted to ask you really is, when Miss Mimi Davis kind of brought that up to the class, there's a lot of people that were kind of skeptical about how just noise can help you feel better, how noise can kind of help you feel different things. And you're saying that you can set different vibrations and frequencies to help you be more alert, to be more relaxed, down to the neurological level, to the scientific level. How does noise actually impact your body? If you could break that down for us.
Totally. First, I'll preface this by saying I'm not a neuroscientist or an expert in that way, but have learned a lot along the way. So I'll share what I can. I think the first thing that stuck out for me was that you said noise. And I think that that's absolutely true if you think about noise. But when you think about sound is literally everything that the earth is made of. In fact, it was Albert Einstein that says everything in life is vibration. And vibration is measured in frequency, which is sound. And so literally sound, the sense of hearing, is the first thing that we develop in the womb, and one of the last things to leave us before we leave. And so it's a profound, our body truly responds to all things sound. You have probably ever had an experience where you went to the gym and maybe forgot your headphones, or you didn't have the right playlist, or you didn't have the right thing. Your workout is tremendously impacted by the sound and the music that you prefer. And some people's music, like I remember more in high school, I listened to more like heavy metal rock, and I don't listen to that as much as anymore, but like it would get you into a state, and it allows you to get into that place. And the same goes for very ambient chill music, right? Just, you can't help but talk a little bit quieter. But if you ever hear a horn honk, or you hear a loud shout, or if someone's angry and they're raising their voice, you can literally feel your body responding to that. And even down to the cellular level, our cells respond to frequency. In fact, I believe sound is the future of medicine. As you mentioned, this is something that I was also learning, that has just been done for thousands of years. And in most of the civilizations, they use some form of sound as a ritual for healing and for connection. And that is something that has been a big impact on my life, and something that when you really look at the way that sound can really help respond, it can actually put you into that relaxive state. And so what we then were using at the foundation of SoundBed is what we're calling immersive sound healing. And that's made up of two parts. It's spatial sound, and that is very similar. So even like my AirPods Pro, they do have a spatial audio now. It really creates a world of sound that you can almost grab. And so if you can imagine different sounds of birds, or different crickets, or the wind blowing by, but literally because it's recorded with what we call the ambisonic microphone, sound bowls, we put them around the microphone, and you can, with your eyes closed laying down, it almost feels like you can point and touch it. And what that does is it really dissolves the distractions that we have in our thoughts, right? And helps to captivate our attention, which can really be, for me, one of the biggest challenges I have had growing up and learning about meditation, was that meditation was hard because I was having so many thoughts. And it is through the active practice of spatial sound, and maybe if you've heard some like binaural beats and some of the things like that, it can really help shift your mind and like captivate your attention very quickly to really kind of allow you to sit into that relaxive state. And the other part of immersive sound healing is the spatial vibration. So I was talking about those transducers that was part of this. So with our design, we have these 6 different prisms, and there are 5 transducers in there. And the transducers are able to deliver a very specific frequencies that is a felt vibration. And what that does is it allows your body almost instantaneously to like really ease into that relaxing recovery state and out of that stress response. And so when combined with those things, you can just imagine being able to lie down with an eye mask and have this combination of this really, what feels really good, but you're able to feel the music, and we're able to specifically target the body, areas of the body, with very specific frequencies. And so there's things like salvaggio tones, and there are definitely a lot of different specific frequencies targeted to a specific energy center of your body that really can allow you to have very specific healing. And so it moves the energy. It helps to move a lot of that stored stress. And honestly, it's really great for workout recovery. And that's something that through the power of those things, in literally 7 to 10 minutes, that's why we call it effortless self-care, because you really only have to just lay down, relax, and receive.
Yeah. The fact that it's 7-10 minutes is kind of amazing. I kind of got a follow-up question before that. I want to talk about something you mentioned earlier. You made that connection between music and working out and how it can get you in a pumped up state. There was a recent study, I don't know if you heard of it or not, but in like 2019, they found that the most effective performance enhancing drug or performance enhancing substance, not creatine, it's not caffeine or anything like that. It's actually like the type of music that you're listening to while you're training has a much profounder impact on your output, your training output, than any of those things, anything that you can actually ingest, which is kind of amazing that you referenced that.
Yeah, I think another great example of that is, the movie industry. There's a reason why they invest so heavily on the right score. And you watch a scary movie and it's like you can't help. Or I sometimes I'm like, oh wait, I hear the music. They're trying to scare me. Something's gonna come up,
Yeah.
And it's the really good films are the ones that have the really good score, the really good sound effects. And I don't know if you've ever been to like Disneyland, they have like these like immersive video, movie experiences like Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Yeah.
And they actually have transducers in those chairs there. And a lot of it is like the sound and it's moving by your head. And that's really a best way to explain what SoundBed does, is that it really creates this very immersive environment that allows you to shift your emotions. And it's not always about relaxing and going to sleep. We actually have other ones, like similar to, there are certain binaural beats that help you to focus and create energy. There are ones that can really help you with energy. And then we also add a lot of different practices such as breath work and different mindfulness. And there's also different guided experience as well. But yeah, going back to I think when you were saying back when you were in school and hearing that how can noise really impact? And it's true, noise can absolutely impact how you feel pretty instantaneously. And really good frequencies and sound, and really good calming music can make you feel a different way.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that a lot because personally, I like to watch anime pretty often, and I don't know if you're the same way, but a huge appreciation I have about anime is that their music is uncomparable to like any other kind of
Hmm.
show genre. They really put next tier effort to put you um into the scene and help you feel the emotions they're trying to help you feel, and it's really crazy. But on that note, I've seen lists before of like these different frequencies that help like repair DNA, help you be better at being a relationship person, or help mend your relationships better, or help you be a more logical thinker. Is there truth to that in terms of because to kind of to go backwards, I heard it was like 528 hertz is the DNA repair frequency, 700 something is the relationship frequency, stuff like that. Is there merit to those things, or are those kind of like meh?
So like the 528 hertz is like for your heart, right? And
Oh, okay.
there's so many different frequencies that have been researched. There are ones that can, and a lot of the ones that we have been working with are the ones that are connected to your energy centers or the chakra system. And so the Sabbatical tones, for example, they've been very well researched and they're very
Hmm.
effective. And then there's also just, if they are very specific frequencies that can deliver very specific outcomes. And then there's also the additional frequencies sometimes in music that there, in fact, you can type up YouTube, with the different frequencies and different music associated with them.
Hmm.
And there's ones for sleep, and there are ones for being stressed or depressed, and I think that they connect them with relationship. I think that they're connecting it to a different emotional state, which is probably your heart. But also they would talk about, there's ones for money, which is like being grounded, right?
Hmm.
And so, and kind of those are the different things that we have been testing out, and I personally feel a lot of experience with. And there are a ton of different research about that. And I think it also comes down to like where your attention is and the integration of some of those experiences that you're having.
Hmm. That's really cool. And kind of like tying it back to Opus, obviously people are going to be drawn to these things. They're going to want more relaxation. They're going to want to be immersed in these frequencies more often. It is only a 7-10 minute experience, like you mentioned. Is
Mhm.
there kind of like a limit to how often you could do that in a day without it being harmful to you, or what kind of frequency do you usually recommend for people?
I would say for me, the best frequency is morning and night. That's my favorite thing. And also ad hoc when I need it, right? If sometimes I'm having a very stressful day, sometimes when I'm having very low energy, and we have some specific ones that have guided breath work as well in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of those particular tracks are really great for me to be able to like reset. And that for me is, having a practice. And because it's a short period of time, it is that kind of effortless self-care that is easy to put in practice, and have that discipline in that way. But also, I've had many times where there's been really very impactful times in my life that are challenging, and I will find, while we have the 7 to 10 minute versions, there are other programs that we'll be offering that have 30 minutes and 60 minutes, and we'll also plan to have different group environments, different group events that we'll be doing, as well as live events. And those will all be more than the kind of 7 to 10 minutes. But the core functionality that we want to be offering is the idea of how is it that you want to feel, to be able to feel better, to be
Mm-hmm.
able to perform better, to be able to create better, and living life on purpose, really can be this idea of 7 to 10 minutes in that way.
Hmm. That's really amazing, and obviously just so accessible to the average person that the excuse of time becomes non-existent at that point. If you can see a measurable difference.
Before doing this, I think I was probably atop a list of the person making those types of excuses in my own mind. And it was like, okay, no, that's a story. That's me trying to distract away from how I want to feel.
Hmm.
And I think it all, part of the emotional fitness concept that we've really been talking about is also just checking in. There's something that I learned from a good friend of mine. He would text me, not how are you, or how are you doing, but he would say, how are you feeling?
Hmm.
And that, I would find that I would actually check in with how I'm feeling. And it kind of gave me that permission to then say, I'm actually feeling a little bit stressed right now.
Yeah.
And rather than I think so naturally, it's how are you? Great. You know, it's
Right.
it's like just such a common thing.
Like a routine. It's not, there's
Yeah,
not as much thought behind it.
right. And we've been doing a lot of that between, our team and also just a lot of my friends is actually checking in. I think that just being more aware of how you're feeling, like you were talking about, it's so easy to kind of just get into it and finding ourselves in the stress. Like, how do you know? Well, it really starts by just checking in with yourself and having that awareness of I'm having a day. I'm having a
Mhm.
day of I'm finding that I'm not feeling my best right now. And that is where if you the more aware that you are of those times and you find the different practices that can be really helpful, and soundbed is something we're really excited to bring that access to for people to do from their home. I love having it and it's very beneficial for me, but being able to, like you said, just get out, just put your feet on the ground outside, do a little walk outside, just
Mhm.
breathe, do some breath work and all of those things. And there's a lot of access to binaural beats and meditations on YouTube. It's like it's insane how much access we do have in some ways. And float tanks and sound baths, I highly encourage it. It's definitely been what we're creating, kind of like the at-home sound bath in a box, so to
Yeah.
speak. It's it's really meaningful to have a lot of those shared experiences when you're in a room with other people and there's the singing bowls that is essentially delivering those frequencies. A lot of times it comes with like singing and other things like that too, but it's you really just are like laying down and receiving an incredible sound healing medicine.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's so amazing, impactful. Now, one thing I want to ask you is more of a personal question. You started off your life, first 14 years or so of your life, being in the church, playing music. Music has always been a part of your life. Do you find that how how you performed music at that point in time kind of brought this full circle for you? Do you think that your experience in music made this more impactful for you, or how do you think that played a role in the development of this?
Yeah, I mean, music has been at the core of most of my life and my family. My parents recorded an album. It was a Christian album together,
Nice.
so music and sound and gathering together to sing together and dance together, those have been things that I grew up with. And I would say that all of the experiences in my life has really brought me to realize how much this is the culmination of my life's work. And all of the things that I have learned, I'm able to create from that place of uh, passion and expression in that way too. So yeah, I really do feel that it has done that, as well as my co-founder. And one of the things that we're so excited about creating this platform is that we plan to open this up to other artists and creators, a bit like its own app store in a way that
Mhm.
people can create for this platform and be able to express their art and share it in that way. So we really, life is really about co-creating. When you collab, when you're doing something by yourself, you can create, but to collaborate and co-create with somebody else, share that experience. But anytime there are collaborative, cooperative type of even like artwork, that I've seen
Mhm.
like, murals, and it's like a combination of a couple different artists. It's really cool. And it was something I really did experience also, like I mentioned at Burning Man, was just seeing what it's like to have 80,000 people co-create an entire city for a week. And the co-creation opportunity I think that we have here that everyone else gets to receive is something that doesn't exist yet.
Mhm.
There's music, you can listen to music, but to have this immersive shared experience that you can really feel with all the different transducers, it's pretty cool. Our prototype, some of the experiences that we've been testing out lately, it can literally create like a wave of vibration going up and down your body, which is just
That's so cool.
you, you can't help but not have any other thoughts. You're just like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah, it really gets you in the moment in a whole different way.
Which again, getting to that moment of being in it is where the recovery happens. It's where that relaxation happens. It's where the
Mhm.
healing happens. And when you're in that parasympathetic state, your body is healing, and you're being able to then perform better later.
Nice. That's actually really cool. Something I just thought of, and I don't know, you might have mentioned this, but I'm not sure. Is do you have like a post-training recovery sound bed option, like a playlist kind of thing that you're going to be having too, or
Yes.
yeah.
Right. So the idea when you're using the app is that it's checking in with how you're feeling and how you want to feel.
Mhm.
And the idea of that is something that we're planning to help you track over time. And one of the things that we, especially for myself, like we want it to be able to learn about you. So literally it's able to actually, we have weight sensors on the device, and it's able to determine your weight, like a bathroom scale,
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, I know that you're on here, and I can literally just start playing what is your routine. Because
Mm-hmm.
for me, the idea of it's the morning, it should know it's the morning, and I can just go literally lay down, put my headphones on, and it just plays my daily routine.
Yeah.
Same thing at nighttime. That to me removes the those resistant pieces. Oh, I gotta go
Yeah.
select something. I gotta choose it. So we have one particular feature, which is just this idea of the daily routine,
Mm-hmm.
but being able to go in and saying like, hey, I'm looking at, I need my body to recover. I feel exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Another, outside of just working out, to me, it's also traveling. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm 6'4", 215 pounds. And so I feel all kinds of things, and I usually try to get a massage.
Right.
I've found that I can go lay on this thing, and it can be even like a 30-minute session that I just lay down and it's just like waving this vibration. It's also a thing. So yeah, physical recovery is definitely a big thing. And I'm not sure if you know who Kyle Kingsbury is. He's one of the guys out on it, and he's really big into the recovery, and he's been one of our beta testers. And that was like, it's one of the things he's super stoked to, that it's the thing he always talks about is like,
Right.
man, workout recovery is an awesome thing on here. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So he's loving it. That's as good of a promotion as you can get, basically, an endorsement. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's so cool. I know that we don't have a lot of time left. So for everyone that's interested about Opus, where can they find more about Opus and how they can even get one for themselves?
Yeah, so we just launched recently. Really excited. We've had an incredible response the last 3 months. We have over 4,000 pre-orders, and you can go to feelopus.com. That's feelopus.com, and we're still taking pre-order reservations. We do plan to start shipping early 2022, and that's when we'll go into production. And so right now we're actually only offering a reservation for only $100, and today we're offering a 500 discount for that.
Oh wow, exclusive today exclusively.
No, it's just currently, right? We have a $500 off discount. Putting in a reservation. It's kind of the early adopters right now.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to leave a link for that in the show notes for anyone that is interested. And then last thing before I let you go, Christopher, this is the Not So Stupid podcast, and we focus a lot on simplicity in order to improve our daily lives. What is one simple thing that you would encourage someone to do as soon as they're done listening to this podcast to help improve their lives today?
I would say go outside, take your shoes off, walk in the grass, take a giant deep breath with your eyes closed, and just slowly exhale, and just find exactly how quickly you can feel better.
Yeah, man, sometimes it's crazy. Something is too good to be true in the sense of it's so simple that it could just release all this weight off my shoulders.
It doesn't require a lot of work that way. You can go spend 5 minutes. And I think that's been one of the most profound things for me is go do a little bit of something, and
Mhm.
it comes with a reward.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that a lot. We aligned a lot in a lot of things, and definitely appreciated this conversation. For
Same.
everyone, yeah, no, for sure, man. And for anyone interested, again, you can check out Christopher and Opus in the show notes. But until next time, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.